Also at the Capitol, families who lost their little girls during the July floods at Camp Mystic shared stories and memories.
And the families are advocating for flood safety legislation. Let's check in now with Jala Washington joining us live from the Capitol. And Jala, it has been quite an emotional day there.
Yeah, Jennifer, Daniel, an emotional day to say the least. Keep in mind, this is the first time we have publicly heard from families directly, collectively, who lost their daughters in the floods at Camp Mystic. So just lots of tears, not just from families and friends in the rooms, but also lawmakers and desperate pleas to lawmakers to prevent another tragedy like this from happening.
Her last song she ever composed, Virginia's Song.
The parents of 8-year-old Virginia Hollis play her final composition piece for legislators, fighting back tears as they grapple with the daily dark reality that their little girl is gone.
My anguish is as infinite as the stars in the sky, and equally as unfathomable, searing, blazing, exploding, a black hole of pain.
They're among other families who all also lost their daughters at Camp Mystic.
We are the parents of Seal Stewart, the only camper from Camp Mystic still missing.
The camper swept away by a raging, fast-rising Guadalupe River last month.
The only way the Rangers knew for sure it was her was after I told them she had had alternating green and yellow nail polish on her fingernails.
Replaying the nightmare of having to identify her tiny, muddy body.
We trusted Camp Mystic with her precious life, and they failed to perform.
The camp has been scrutinized for not doing enough to keep campers safe. Now, new legislation looks to create more uniform safety standards for camps.
They were not prepared.
Houston area Senator Paul Betancourt co-authored Senate Bill 1 that would require an online list of licensed youth camps, would prohibit the state from issuing or renewing a youth camp license that has one or more cabins in a floodplain, like Camp Mystic. Will require all camps to have an emergency plan, including weather radios, install emergency warning systems in each camp, and more.
No system is going to be foolproof. We'll be back with whatever changes we need in 2027.
Until then, more advocacy from families, broken, but with new purpose, honoring their daughters. Now, Betancourt does expect this to be taken back up again on Thursday. He says it has bipartisan support, so certain that it will, in fact, pass. And by the way, after families testified today, they also heard from other camp organizers and people who are actively involved in the youth camp community who weighed in on sort of some of the safety practices that they do have in place that have been effective. All of this to just make sure once they go forward with that legislation, all of those best practices are included. I'm live at the Capitol. Jala Washington, KXAN News.
All right, Jala, thank you very much. Going in depth, the bill over camp safety isn't the only bill filed this session in reaction to the floods. Senate Bill 2 would establish licensing requirements for emergency management coordinators and set up registration systems for disaster response volunteers that could include criminal history checks. Senate Bill 3 would require a state agency to determine which areas in the region that flooded on the July 4th weekend should have outdoor warning sirens and then establish guidance on how to install them. And then Senate Bill 5 would pull money from the state's so-called rainy day fund for disaster relief efforts, including $50 million for sirens.
Okay, let's check